never just about a pop star losing control. This may have been a young teenager walking straight into rooms the public was never supposed to question. That's the chilling feeling exploding across the internet right now as old clips, forgotten interviews, awkward jokes, and emotional breakdowns surrounding Justin Bieber suddenly start looking completely different in 2026. Because people are no longer watching these moments like harmless celebrity nostalgia. They're watching them like evidence, tiny fragments of a much darker picture hiding in plain sight for years.
Check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
Going
Crazy.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, you know, telling me they love me and, you know, just turn their back on you in a second.
Back then, the world saw a smiling teenage superstar getting handed the dream. A kid from Canada posting covers online, suddenly standing shoulder to shoulder with music royalty. The cameras loved it. The industry celebrated it. Fans called it destiny. But now people are asking whether that dream came with a price nobody could see. Because once you start tracing the timeline around Bieber's rise, one name keeps appearing like a shadow hanging over the entire story, Sean Combs. And the internet completely froze when those old interviews resurfaced again. Diddy casually talking about spending 48 hours with a teenage Bieber, laughing, smirking, saying they were doing things he couldn't publicly discuss, calling it every young person's dream. At the time, audiences laughed because celebrity culture trained everybody to laugh at uncomfortable things, but listening to it now feels eerie, disturbing, wrong in a way people can't explain away anymore. Because ask yourself something nobody wanted to ask back then. Why would a grown industry figure repeatedly speak in cryptic language about private time spent with a child star? Why was secrecy always part of the joke? Why did nobody stop and say, wait, what exactly is happening here? The more people replay those clips, the heavier the silence around them becomes. Suddenly, every awkward pause feels suspicious. Every uncomfortable laugh sounds forced. And Bieber's later emotional behavior starts connecting in ways fans never noticed before.
Check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
Going
Crazy.
Because over the years, Bieber wasn't just another celebrity struggling with fame. That's the narrative people were fed. But the public is now revisiting his interviews through an entirely different lens. The exhaustion in his eyes. The emotional shutdowns, the moments where he looked disconnected while surrounded by millions of fans screaming his name. And then came that moment involving Billie Eilish that sent the internet spiraling. Bieber looked emotional while talking about wanting to protect her from certain experiences in the industry. Protect her from what, exactly? That question exploded online overnight, because people don't talk like that unless they've seen something personally. That wasn't a polished PR answer. That sounded like somebody remembering something painful while trying not to say too much.
I just want to protect her, you know? I don't wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm I'm just a call away.
And suddenly the entire story becomes darker when you remember another key figure in Bieber's rise, Usher. Because long before Bieber entered Diddy's orbit, Usher himself admitted he spent time living around those same environments at a young age. He openly hinted he saw things that made him uncomfortable, strange behavior, experiences he later suggested young people should never be around. Now stop right there, because this is where people start connecting dots aggressively online. If Usher himself experienced disturbing situations, then why bring Bieber into those same circles afterward? Why repeat the cycle? Was this really mentorship, or something much more normalized behind the scenes than the public realized?
And I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you
New
over
York
to
City.
something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's what
Camp.
it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In
to
the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and being like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you
I
seeing?
went there to see the lifestyle,
Right.
And I saw it, and it was. But I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
That's when the whispers about elite gatherings, private parties, and heavily protected celebrity spaces start flooding the conversation. According to discussions exploding online, Bieber wasn't just attending flashy Hollywood events. People believe he may have been exposed to hidden environments where powerful people operated away from cameras, away from phones, away from accountability. Invite-only spaces, security everywhere, rooms where silence mattered more than anything else. And then the Epstein comparisons started surfacing. Not because there's confirmed evidence placing Bieber on Jeffrey Epstein's island, there isn't, but because the public keeps noticing overlapping patterns, powerful figures, secrecy, young talent entering closed-off spaces nobody outside could fully see. And once those conversations started, the internet began revisiting old testimonies from people like Ally Carter, who described isolated gatherings involving elite figures and disturbing behavior hidden from the public eye. Years ago, people brushed it aside as conspiracy talk. Now, people are listening differently, much differently, especially after the horrifying party favor description resurfaced and social media completely erupted over the implications. Suddenly, the public isn't dismissing these stories automatically anymore, because too many strange patterns keep overlapping around the same names, the same environments, the same power structures. And then another name enters the conversation like gasoline hitting a fire, Ellen DeGeneres. People started replaying her old interactions with Diddy and realizing how bizarre some of those conversations sound today. The nicknames, the inside jokes, the references to after-hours gatherings said so casually on daytime television, like everybody already knew what kind of environment was being discussed. Back then, audiences laughed because celebrity culture conditioned them to ignore discomfort. But rewatching those clips now feels deeply unsettling to a lot of viewers. It's the tone people can't shake, the familiarity, the feeling that jokes were being made around things the public wasn't fully supposed to understand.
I was a party favor.
What does that mean?
I was a party favor. I was somebody you could take off the table.
So you're telling me they set
I set
on a table, like when you go to a birthday party and they have gift bags for everybody that comes that have candy and toys in them,
Yep.
and they set them on the table. So you're telling me at the freak off parties, they put children on the table instead of gift bags, and then people can do what?
take you off the table and have with you, even though.
And when people started noticing how often Ellen, Diddy, Bieber, and other celebrities kept appearing in the same social ecosystems over the years, the conversation turned explosive. Coincidence? Maybe. But online audiences are no longer looking at these celebrity friendships individually. They're looking at the network, the overlapping circles, the repeated patterns involving young stars entering elite spaces very early in life before later speaking about trauma, betrayal, confusion, or emotional damage years afterward.
No, it's great. So tell me about your birthday party. Am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up.
No, well, is it on the East Coast?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's that? Now, what time would your party start, let's say?
Like 9:30.
Really? That early?
Yeah.
I could make that.
Yeah.
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight. Like, what time will it go till?
That's a different type of party. No, it'll go from like 9:30 to like maybe 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then, we have the top 2 floors of the hotel.
And then it will carry on there?
Yeah. The after party.
No, I know about them.
Oh.
Is that going to be a new thing? Are you going to try to be early?
Yes, I'm trying to be early.
Are you going to be early for my party?
Yes, I am. No.
No.
I have to arrive fashionably late.
All right. Not too late, though.
Not too late?
Not too late, please.
What time would you like me there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But not too late. Because, once you get there, the party really starts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I got you. I promise you I'm not going to let you down on this big one.
All right,
For
good.
real.
Good.
Your shoes, your feet are going to have blisters. You're going to be dancing so hard.
I can't wait.
Now the spotlight swings fully back onto Bieber, because this is where the emotional pieces start hitting hardest. Over the last several years, Bieber quietly began distancing himself from major figures connected to his rise. Longtime relationships started disappearing. Powerful industry ties faded away. And fans noticed something important. These separations didn't look business-related. They looked emotional, personal, painful, because people usually don't cut off entire support systems unless something underneath the surface broke completely. Then came the trust issues Bieber openly discussed. The loneliness, the pressure, the feeling that he didn't know who genuinely cared about him during his younger years. Suddenly, those old interviews don't sound like random celebrity burnout anymore. They sound like somebody trying to explain damage without directly naming what caused it. And what's terrifying people online is the possibility that Bieber may not even be talking about one individual person. He may be hinting at entire systems, entire celebrity structures where powerful people protect each other while younger artists are expected to stay quiet and survive however they can. That's why more names keep getting dragged into these conversations. Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, longtime executives, celebrity handlers, social gatekeepers, because the public keeps seeing the same pattern repeat itself over and over again. Young stars enter powerful spaces. Years later, they show signs of emotional trauma. Then everybody dismisses it as the pressure of fame. But what if fame was only the cover story the entire time? And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all this. Bieber still hasn't fully spelled anything out publicly. Not directly, not completely, but people believe the hints are getting louder. The emotions are getting harder to hide. And if even half of what audiences are piecing together turns out to be true, then this story was never about a pop star losing control. It may have been about what happens when a child enters rooms controlled by rich, protected, untouchable people and spends the next decade trying to process what happened there afterward. And the scariest part? The internet believes this story still hasn't fully surfaced yet. What really pushed the internet over the edge wasn't just the resurfaced clips, it was the timing. Because suddenly, after years of silence, cracks started appearing everywhere around the same powerful entertainment circles people once treated like untouchable royalty. And once the public smelled weakness, they started digging through old footage like investigators reopening a cold case. Every interview became suspicious. Every strange interaction got slowed down, replayed, dissected frame by frame. And right in the center of it all sat Justin Bieber, looking more emotionally exhausted with every passing year. People began noticing how often Bieber seemed trapped between wanting to say something and stopping himself at the last second. That tension became impossible to ignore. Fans started pointing out moments where his eyes would suddenly go blank during interviews, whenever conversations drifted toward his younger years in the industry. Other times, he looked like somebody carrying memories too heavy to explain publicly. And what made the situation feel darker was the pattern repeating around so many former child stars. The same emotional instability, the same references to betrayal, the same vague comments about losing trust in people around them, the same warnings about the entertainment business destroying innocence behind closed doors. Then social media started revisiting Bieber's relationship with fame itself, and suddenly his public meltdowns looked less like reckless celebrity behavior and more like somebody unraveling under pressure nobody else could see. Because think about it, Justin Bieber became globally famous before his brain had even fully developed, before he could legally drink, before he understood contracts, manipulation, power dynamics, or how dangerous elite attention can become when billions of dollars are attached to your face. One minute he was a normal teenager. The next minute he was surrounded by executives, handlers, celebrities, billionaires, bodyguards, and industry gatekeepers twice his age. People online now keep asking the same terrifying question: who exactly was protecting him during all of that? Because from the outside, it looks like everybody benefited from Bieber except Bieber himself. The internet also became obsessed with Bieber's emotional reaction while discussing younger artists entering the industry today. That moment involving Billie Eilish especially continues haunting people because it felt incredibly raw, unfiltered. Almost like Bieber saw himself in her and suddenly remembered everything he went through all over again. People keep replaying his words, wondering whether he was trying to subtly warn audiences without directly exposing himself to backlash. Because surviving powerful systems often means speaking indirectly, hinting instead of naming, suggesting instead of accusing. Especially when the people involved hold money, influence, media access, and entire corporate machines capable of controlling narratives. And maybe that's why this story refuses to disappear. Because deep down, people sense there's something emotionally authentic underneath Bieber's pain. Something unresolved. Something he spent years trying to suppress while the world reduced it to celebrity drama. But audiences today are more skeptical than ever before. They no longer automatically trust Hollywood's polished image. They've seen too many scandals, too many secrets, too many conspiracies eventually turn into headlines. And now every resurfaced Bieber clip feels less like entertainment gossip and more like fragments of a much larger hidden story slowly leaking into public view piece by piece. Now people are left staring at one terrifying possibility. What if Justin Bieber wasn't simply another child star who struggled with fame? What if he was a teenager exposed to powerful environments he never fully understood until years later? What if the emotional damage audiences watched publicly for over a decade was actually the aftermath of experiences nobody around him wanted discussed openly? And if that's true, then how many other former young stars are carrying similar stories in silence right now? Because the deeper people dig into these overlapping celebrity circles, the more one thing becomes impossible to ignore. The same names keep appearing, the same patterns keep repeating, and the same unsettling questions refuse to go away. And the internet believes this entire story may only be scratching the surface of what's really been happening behind the curtains of fame all along.